The Samurai's Last Stand. Battle of Sekigahara, 1600. One battle that lasted only a few hours, decided 250 years of Japan's future. When the dust had settled, Japan would never be the same again. A new military government would take over the country and isolate it from the rest of the world for more than 200 years. And it all came down to the decisions made by one man, Tokugawa Ieyasu, against his former allies. Let's find out how this happened in today's episode of Battles of the History Channel. In the early 1600s, Japan was still a feudal society, ruled by a number of rival clans. Power at the time was held by three: the Hojo, Mori, and Tokugawa. The Hojo were based in the east around the city of Edo, while the Mori controlled the west from their base in the city of Kyoto. The Tokugawa were situated in the center of the country with their power base in the city of Sampu. At the head of these three clans were three powerful daimyo, or lords: Tokugawa Ieyasu, Ishida Mitsunari, and Date Masamune. These men had all come to prominence after helping to defeat the warlord Oda Nobunaga and absorb his territories. Oda Nobunaga had been a vicious ruler who sought to unite Japan under his banner. Although he was successful in conquering much of the country, his ambition got the better of him, and he attacked the Buddhist priesthood, which resulted in a massive uprising. Nobunaga was defeated and killed at the Battle of Hanfo-Glalas, giving way to the three powerful lords to carve up his lands. However, despite forming an alliance to defeat Nobunaga, the three lords soon became rivals. Tensions between them grew as each wanted to claim more land for themselves. After years of maneuvering, the Tokugawa Ieyasu decided to strike first and eliminate his two rivals. His plan was simple: attack the Mori first, and then turn on the Date. However, the Date were quick to realize what was happening and instead attacked the Tokugawa first. This caught Tokugawa Ieyasu off guard and forced him to flee. He knew he could not win a battle against the Date army, so his only option was to seek help from his old rival, Ishida Mitsunari. Ishida Mitsunari agreed to help Tokugawa Ieyasu defeat the Date. In return, Tokugawa would have to swear loyalty to Ishida and give him half of his lands. Ieyasu reluctantly agreed, and the two armies set out to defeat the Date. Date Masamune put up a strong fight, but he was eventually defeated and forced to commit seppuku, or ritual suicide. With the Date out of the way, Ishida Mitsunari and Tokugawa Ieyasu turned on each other. Their armies clashed at the Battle of Sekigahara in October 1600. The result of this battle would determine the fate of Japan for the next 250 years. Both sides had about 80,000 troops, with the Tokugawa having a slight advantage. It was a hot, humid day in central Japan as the two armies faced off against one another. The samurai on both sides wore thick armor and carried long swords and bows. They were well-trained fighters who had experience in hand-to-hand combat, as well as mounted archery. The outcome of the battle would depend on the skill of their commanders, as well as the loyalty of their troops. Tokugawa Ieyasu divided his army into 5 sections, each led by one of his most trusted generals. On the right wing was the Satake clan, known for their cavalry skills. In the center was the Honda clan, elite infantry troops who would form a spearhead for any assaults. On the left wing were the Abe clan, also cavalry, and in reserve was the Toriya clan. Leading the charge was Tokugawa himself, along with his son and heir, Tokugawa Hitada. Across the field, Ishida Mitsunari had his army divided into 4 sections. On the right wing were the veteran troops of the Yukita clan, led by Yukita Hide. Next to them were the Kuki clan, known for their fierce fighting style. In the center were the most elite troops of Mitsunari's army, the Aizu clan, led by the general Katajiri Shijinaga. Finally, on the left wing were the inexperienced but numerous troops of the Sagi clan. As the sun rose higher in the sky, the heat intensified. Both armies waited patiently for the other to make the first move. Suddenly, a horn sounded, and the Aizu clan charged across the field towards the center of the Tokugawa lines. As they closed in on the Hondo clan, the Aizu began to fire volleys of arrows. The Honda, protected by their large shields, returned the attack with a volley of their own. The two armies clashed in a fierce melee as the Izu pushed forward. Katujiri Shijinaga, the general of the Izu, was a skilled fighter, and he soon began to gain the upper hand. Just when it seemed that the Hondo might break and run, reinforcements arrived. Tokugawa Ieyasu had seen the battle taking place in the center of the field and sent his reserve force, the Tori clan, to assist their comrades. The Ieyasu were driven back, but not before inflicting heavy casualties on the Honda. Seeing that his center was in trouble, Tokugawa ordered the Satake clan on his right flank to launch an attack. The Satake were cavalry, and they rode hard towards the veteran Yukita troops. The Yukita were taken by surprise and were soon routed. The Satake, however, did not pursue them, for Tokugawa had given orders that no troops were to leave their designated battle stations. On the left wing of the battlefield, the Abe clan and their cavalry were also having trouble. The Saigi were a large, inexperienced force, and they were pushing the Abe back. Just as it seemed that the Abe would be overwhelmed, they were relieved by reinforcements. Tokugawa Ieyasu had seen the battle developing on the left flank and sent his son and heir, Tokugawa Hitada, to help his father. With the arrival of the fresh troops, the Abe were able to stabilize their position and hold off the Sagi. At this point in the battle, it seemed that neither side could gain the upper hand. The fighting continued throughout the day, and as the sun began to set, the two armies were still locked in battle. Tokugawa Ieyasu knew that he had to do something to break the deadlock. He ordered his son to lead a night attack against the enemy camp. The young Tokugawa obeyed and led his troops through the night. They crept closer and closer to the enemy camp until they were within striking distance. Then they struck, catching the enemy by surprise. The Tokugawa fought fiercely and soon began to gain the upper hand. Seeing that the battle was going badly for the Tokugawa, Ishida Mitsunari tried to rally his troops. He led a group of samurai out of the camp to try to break through the Tokugawa lines. However, he was stopped and killed by the Tokugawa general, Honda Tadakatsu. With their leader dead, the remaining samurai broke and ran. Tokugawa had won the Battle of Sekigahara. When the smoke had cleared and the bodies were counted, the Tokugawa had won a decisive victory. Of the 80,000 men who had fought for Ishida Mitsunari, 35,000 had been killed or captured. Only 10,000 were able to escape and retreat to safety. Tokugawa Ieyasu had proven himself to be the dominant force in Japan, and he wasted no time in taking advantage of his victory. He marched on the cities of Kyoto and Osaka, the seats of power for the Mori and Hojo clans respectively. The two clans had already been weakened by years of fighting, and they were no match for the victorious Tokugawa. Soon, the entire country of Japan was under the control of the Tokugawa Shogunate. Ieyasu had kept his word and given his son Hitada half of his lands. Hidetada's domain would become the most powerful in the country, and his descendants would rule Japan for the next 250 years. The other half of Ieyasu's lands were divided among his loyal followers, most of whom were commoners. This marked the end of the samurai class in Japan. In the wake of his victory at Sekigahara, Tokugawa Ieyasu wasted no time in consolidating his power. He issued a series of decrees that would change Japan forever. First, he established a new capital at Edo, which would become one of the largest cities in the world. He also imposed a strict policy of isolation, which would last for more than 200 years. Japan would become known as the Hermit Kingdom, and its people would be forbidden to travel to or trade with any other country. Ieyasu also instituted a series of reforms that would make Japan more like China. He introduced a new legal code, a new currency, and a new system of weights and measures. He also encouraged the study of Chinese philosophy and literature. These reforms would have a profound impact on Japanese culture and society. Despite his many accomplishments, Tokugawa Ieyasu is perhaps best known for the Battle of Sekigahara. His victory at this battle not only secured his power in Japan, but also changed the course of Japanese history. So what can we learn from the Battle of Sekigahara? What made the Tokugawa army victorious against their rivals? There are several factors that contributed to the Tokugawa victory at Sekigahara. One was the superior military tactics employed by the Tokugawa. Ieyasu was a brilliant strategist, and he used his knowledge to good advantage. For example, he kept his army together and did not allow his generals to become overextended. He also used cavalry effectively and massed his forces for key attacks. Another factor in the Tokugawa victory was the loyalty of their troops. The samurai who fought for Tokugawa Ieyasu were extremely loyal to their master. This is evidenced by the fact that even when the battle was going badly, they refused to abandon him. Finally, Tokugawa Ieyasu had the support of the majority of the great lords in Japan. This gave him a significant advantage over his rivals, who were outnumbered and outgunned. Do you think the samurai followed a strict code of honor? How did they fight in battle? Do you know what happened to the samurai after the Battle of Sekigahara? Let us know in the comments section below. Don't forget to subscribe for more epic stories of battles from history. Thanks for watching.